I suppose it's always a bit tricky guessing so close to an election. It's always more of a snapshot than a prediction. But it does look likely that the Conservatives are going to fall back on Thursday.
Yes, it does now, and in particular in comparison with the polling we did earlier in April, which showed things would be not great for the Conservatives, but not dreadful. Things have deteriorated since the Partygate fines came out. They have maybe possibly been the most expensive £100 ever paid, politically speaking, because what we've seen with the respondents we asked is that particularly Conservative voters have been disenchanted by the recent events and are not so much switching parties, less likely to turn out. What we're seeing now is that although in local elections turnout is never very high, over half of people who supported the Conservatives at the last general election are probably going to stay at home on this Thursday and not vote. And that really hurts the Conservatives much more than it was looking that it would do before the Partygate fines. So we are seeing, as you say, in London, which is not a Conservative area at all, Conservatives could lose Wandsworth and may well lose Westminster as well, which would be a big shock if that happened. And across the country, although the number of councils the Conservatives lose may not be terribly large, the number of seats will be quite big, and their overall vote share is going to look relatively bad compared with local election results going right back into the past.
So suppose when we're talking about what's going ahead on Thursday, the extent to which that will actually bear fruit in a general election is contested. How representative might a mid-term local election be when we're looking a few years ahead? As you point out there, Conservative voters may be more likely to stay at home. They may be more likely to turn out in the case of a general election. If the Conservative Party have a complete drubbing on Thursday, what implications does that have for future general elections?
Well, you're right. That is the $1,000 question, because it is a fairly thin line between just mid-term protest voting, which the Conservatives benefited from under Tony Blair's leadership, and Tony Blair went on to win subsequent general elections. So that's one end. The other end, just a bit worse than that, where you say 15% behind or more in the polls, that is more associated with the kind of the decaying end of an out-of-steam administration, a bit like John Major in the mid-90s or even Gordon Brown around about 2008-9. So that will be the question I think that Conservative MPs are going to grapple with, and the country as well, when the results actually come out, to see whether they are sort of mid-term bad or government-ending bad. That will be the question. At the moment, we've got it towards the bad end of the spectrum, but equally, it just needs to be a little bit better, and that would be a relief for the Conservatives, and they could say that things weren't so bad. But at the moment, it is looking more fin de siècle than midterm protest. But you're right, it could go either way, and we'll all be watching the actual results on Thursday to see what people really say.
We certainly will. Let's conclude this conversation now by trying to quantify what a bad result, what a very bad result, might look like for the Conservatives. I think we can probably rule out them having a good night, but what would be the difference? What do we need to watch out for in terms of what is a bad night versus a very bad night?
OK, well, let me give you two measures. One is the seats the Conservatives win, the council seats compared with Labour. We're predicting the Conservatives will win less than 1,000 and Labour will win more than 3,000. So that's a ratio of 3 to 1. 3 would be, that ratio would be fairly historic, and that would be bad. If they can get it down to more like 2 to 1, 2.5, that would be better. The other measure, which the psephologists will come up with on Thursday night, Friday morning, is the implied national vote share lead. If Labour can be 15% ahead, that's very good for them, very bad for the Conservatives. If the Conservatives can keep that, say, to 10 or 12%, then that's more manageable and looks more like a lib-term lead. So those are the two numbers I would be looking for on Friday morning to see what it means.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.